At the end of the Third Age, after centuries of relative peace, the spirit of Sauron returned from his time in the East, secretly taking residence in Dol Guldur, where he would come to be known as the Necromancer. Over many years, he would prepare his forces, breeding orc armies and recovering Mordor, until he was finally discovered by Gandalf the Grey and ousted from Dol Guldur by the White Council. But it would prove to be only a minor setback, as he relocated to Mordor and continued his preparations for war. Fortunately for the free peoples of Middle-earth, Sauron was still weakened from his defeat thousands of years earlier, when he lost the One Ring of Power in which he had imbued so much of his strength. And while the continued existence of the ring allowed Sauron to survive his defeat, without the ring, he would never be at his full power. And so his first priority became the recovery of the One Ring, capturing and torturing the creature Gollum to discover the name of the ring's current bearer and his location. His second priority would be to defeat Gondor and capture Minas Tirith, thereby crippling the strongest opponents they might face in their military campaign. Opposing Sauron, Gandalf the Grey, later the White, took the role of general and master strategist for the peoples of the West. Determined to stop Sauron's advances, Gandalf gathered as many allies as possible, chipping away at Sauron's power and above all, keeping the One Ring hidden. The conflict, therefore, broke down into two distinct theaters of war. The Southern Theater, where Sauron sought to conquer Gondor by preventing their allies in Rohan from assisting them, and so he allied with Saruman at Isengard, allowing him to breed his own Orc and Uruk-hai armies to raid and plunder northern Rohan, thereby keeping their armies busy and unable to join the defense of Gondor. Sauron also sought to weaken Gondor's own defenses by sending his corsairs from Umbar to raid southern Gondor, forcing local lords to keep their forces at home, sending only a fraction of their men north for the defense of Minas Tirith. Sauron's orc armies then took Osgiliath and prepared for the final assault against the White City, but Gandalf still stood in opposition, rallying the people and nations of the West to fight. After journeying for some time with Frodo Baggins, the small hobbit who bore the One Ring of Power, and journeyed in secret to Mount Doom, where the ring must be destroyed. Yet soon they were separated, and Gandalf continued his war effort while Frodo continued his journey to Mordor. Gandalf began by ridding the Rohan court of corruption and restoring King Theoden to his power. The king then saw to the defense of his people, organizing a last stand at Helm's Deep, while Gandalf gathered the scattered Rohirrim army and charged against the forces of Isengard at the Battle of the Hornburg, defeating them and driving them back into Fangorn Forest, where they were finished off by the trees. Isengard itself was defeated and captured by the ancient Ent race, who hated Saruman and his minions for the destruction they caused to the forests. The armies of Rohan were now ready to rally and rush to the defense of Gondor at the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. And while the battle was devastating, with the city defenses breached and thousands dead, Gondor and their allies emerged victorious. Then gathering whatever men they could organize, Aragorn, Gandalf, and their warriors charged against the gates of Mordor, hoping to distract the Dark Lord and their forces, allowing for Frodo and his companion Sam to enter Mount Doom and destroy the ring. And while Frodo ultimately chose to keep the One Ring of Power, the interference of Gollum and the struggle for its possession did lead to the ring's destruction, achieving victory for the free peoples of Middle-earth and ridding them of Sauron, whose spirit was so diminished he could no longer interact with the world. And while the events of the Southern Theater are well known to many, the victory of Gondor and Rohan against the forces of Sauron was in part made possible because of the lesser-known war in the north, also known as the Northern Theater of the War of the Ring. Even during the years of peace, Gandalf knew Sauron was still a threat, and aware of his many servants and allies, Gandalf was vigilant, spending many years preparing for the Dark Lord's return. A major priority for the old wizard became the elimination of the dragon Smaug, and the restoration of a dwarven kingdom in the Lonely Mountain. Smaug the Terrible, if allowed to survive, would no doubt be a devastating tool for the Dark Lord, and would make his victory all but assured. And so Gandalf united with the dwarven exile Thorin Oakenshield and his companions, guiding them back to their home of Erebor to retake the mountain and slay the dragon. With the help of a hobbit named Bilbo, they were victorious in their mission and restored the kingdom of Erebor. The nearby kingdom of Dale was also restored under their king, Bard I, and while they nearly went to war with their dwarven neighbors after the destruction wrought by Smaug during their quest to retake the mountain, the two peoples eventually became staunch allies. Then Sauron re-emerged in the west, and while he made his plans plans to capture Minas Tirith in the south, he prepared his eastern armies to move through the north and attack the armies of Gondor and Rohan on two sides. And so the Dark Lord ordered that his orc armies in Dol Guldur attack the elven territories of Lothlorien and the Woodland Realm. A massive Easterling army would then sweep through dwarven lands and join in the destruction of the Woodland Realm, then sending the combined Orc and Easterling army to finish off Lothlorien, so they might have free reign to pass through the Misty Mountains and take Rivendell, as well as allowing their armies to march south as reinforcements. The defense of the north, therefore, came down to stopping the Easterling armies from joining their allies in the west. Fortunately for the free peoples of Middle-earth, Gandalf, the dwarves of Erebor, and their allies destroyed the dragon Smaug, thereby eliminating a potential ally of the Dark Lord. And where the dwarves of the Iron Hills would have been the sole defensive army fighting against the Easterlings, they now had the restored kingdoms of Erebor and Dale to join the fight. Knowing that the Dwarven-Human alliance might be of concern to his future plans, Sauron originally attempted diplomacy, sending a messenger to seek an alliance with King Dain II Ironfoot of Erebor, asking for his assistance in locating the One Ring, promising that if they cooperated, the dwarves of Durin's folk would be rewarded with the ancient rings of power taken from their people centuries earlier, and swore that their ancient home of Moria would be restored and would remain in their possession forever. But Dain would not be tempted and dismissed the messenger without giving an answer, then sending the dwarf Glóin as his representative to Rivendell and the Council of Elrond, so they might be informed of the situation while the dwarves of Erebor prepared for war. When at last the armies of the Easterlings marched into their territories, the combined armies of Erebor and the Kingdom of Dale stood against them in the Battle of Dale, holding them back for 3 days before being forced to retreat to the Lonely Mountain. The city of Dale was then sacked and burned. The battle then continued at the gates of Erebor, where King Brand of Dale fought bravely before being killed by the Easterling horde. King Dain, upon seeing the death of his ally and friend, rushed to his side and died, defending his body. After suffering tremendous losses, the surviving humans and dwarves took refuge inside the mountain. The Siege of Erebor lasted for several days until word reached them that Sauron had been defeated in the south and his armies dispersed and destroyed. With this news, the Easterlings lost their ambition and many deserted their ranks. After 2 days, the combined armies of men and dwarves charged out of Erebor, led by the sons of King Brand and Dain, and together they beat back the Easterling invaders, forcing them into retreat. Thanks to the efforts of these allied warriors, Sauron's eastern reinforcements were held off, allowing for the Woodland Realm under King Thranduil to successfully repel the armies of Dol Guldur in the battle under the trees, while Lothlorien under Celeborn and Galadriel also repelled their orc armies, then pursuing them, capturing and destroying Dol Guldur. With the death of King Dain II, his son, King Thorin III Stonehelm, became king of Erebor, while King Bran's son came to rule the rebuilt Kingdom of Dale. The Woodland Realm continued under King Thranduil, with most of its people choosing to stay in Middle-earth, while Lothlorien was largely abandoned, with some following Celeborn to Aman-Lanc, the capital of East Lorien, formerly known as Dol Guldur, while others followed Galadriel and traveled west to the Undying Lands. All across the Northern Theater, the line had been held, though at a cost of thousands of lives. They played a crucial role in defeating the armies of the Dark Lord and contributing to his ultimate destruction.
A special thanks to all those who have contributed to CivilizationEx. You make these videos possible, and I am eternally grateful for your support. If you would like to help CivilizationEx and want a say in the future content of this channel, click on the Patreon link in the description box below, and pledge any amount you'd like on a monthly basis. Or if you would prefer to make a single donation, you can use the PayPal link, also in the description below. And please be sure to like and subscribe, and click on the links to see more.